In this section, we are going to discuss overlay procedures using TecnoCoat's Depot series machines. First, set the argon shield gas cylinder by opening the holding device in the back of the carriage. Make sure the cylinder is securely held by tightly closing the holder. Connect the applicators and couplers to the designated receptors. Next, clamp the ground cable to the base metal or workpiece nearest the work area. Make sure to keep good electrical conduction between the clamp and work areas. Plug in the power supply and turn on the main switch. Then, turn on the spark switch and select applicator A or B using the selection switch. Turn on the switch of the applicator and adjust the shield gas flow to 2 to 3 liters per minute after attaching appropriate electrode. For details, please read the reference materials for electrode selection for overlay and electrode size and setting of output frequency. The electrode should extend no more than 20 millimeters from the tip of the protective cover or shield tube. The effective gas shield is compromised when the electrode extends beyond the recommended 20 millimeters. Select the best variables for the optimum overlay efficiency and quality. First, select the output voltage using the voltage switch knob. Next, select the maximum capacitor using the high or low power switch and appropriate output power using the output switch. Finally, select the proper frequency using the frequency knob. For selection of the best operating conditions, please refer to electrode size and setting of output frequency. Turn on the applicator and adjust the speed of rotation. Prepare the workpiece prior to overlay work for best results. Clean off oil and grease in the work area with a piece of clean cloth. Oxide scales and fatigued materials from the work surface should also be removed using a whetstone, sandpaper, or Scotch-Brite. Before starting the overlay operation, you must wear protective goggles for your eyes to prevent damage from ultraviolet light. Pay close attention to the tip color using the initial thick overlay process to avoid red-hot conditions. If needed, turn down the frequency, power output, or power level. The overlay is achieved by moving the tip of the electrode in a spiral motion under very light pressure. Do not forcefully press the electrode on the work face. You should maintain an angle of 30 to 60 degrees between the electrode and the workface for optimum results. After the initial thick overlay process, remove carbon or carbonized materials from the deposit surface using a stainless steel wire brush. The next step is to increase the power output and start the overlay operation again. The tip of the electrode should appear cherry red. The tip of the electrode will have a mirror-like appearance, and the reflection of a spark can be seen. When a layer of overlay is finished, then the next layer should be applied at a 90-degree angle to the previous layer. Make sure you maintain a bright and reflective surface of the overlay material during the overlay operation. If the tip of the electrode becomes orange or yellowish in color, the temperature is too high. If you continue to use the electrode under those conditions, the deposit will be contaminated with oxides and nitrides. To avoid the contamination, lower the frequency, the power output, and the power level. The deposition efficiency depends on the direction of the electrode rotation. When the electrode rotation is clockwise, more deposit is produced on the left side of the electrode, while a counterclockwise rotation deposits more on the right side of the electrode. You must be aware of this fact and make uniform deposits accordingly. I would like to explain a typical example requiring a unique technique. First, I would like to talk about an overlay in a dent or pit on a flat or curved surface. You should start with the bottom of the dent and gradually work outward like a propagating wave. You may encounter difficulties during the overlay procedure, such as roughening of the deposit surface, in which the surface may produce very high peaks and valleys, making the insertion of the electrode difficult. If this situation should occur, flatten the rough surface using a Dremel tool or file. Then continue overlaying. For those alloys with a hardness of less than Rockwell C40, peening of the deposit should be done during and after the overlay process to obtain a dense deposit. In this section, I will cover overlay techniques on a 90-degree edge or a parting line on dies and molds. First, overlay one of the faces by moving the electrode in spiral motions and pushing the deposit out toward the edge, making a slightly overhanged edge. A uniform deposit at each side is achieved by starting the overlay from the center to each side. The second step is to overlay on the overhanged edge. Place the belly of the electrode near the tip against the overlapped deposit and move left and right similar to a rubbing action. You should use a ceramic protector to prevent unwanted electrode contact at the interface. Use the same technique as in the 90-degree edge overlay for a corner tip. This is an example of overlay in a pinhole in which inserting the electrode is difficult. Open the pinhole with a center punch or Dremel tool and make a U-shaped hole. Always overlay in the deepest area of the pinhole by changing the angle of the electrode or work position so you end up with a uniform deposit. When overlay work is completed, you must choose an appropriate finishing method depending on the hardness of the deposit. For softer alloys, use a Dremel tool, files, whetstones, machining, or electric discharge machining. For harder alloys, use diamond tools, whetstones, or electric discharge machining. This machine can be used for rough finishing. The applicator can be used as a Dremel tool by attaching the proper tools rather than an electrode. Keep the spark switch off. If the spark switch is on, you may damage the workpiece if the attached tooling is electroconductive. Increase the rotation speed of the tooling on the applicator. This method is used only for rough finishing, and fine finishing must be done using files and oil stones. The overlay procedures are now complete. Please make sure to refer to cautions in the operating manual and use the correct overlay procedures for a safe operation.